All right, you're asking for it, so here it is. Listen to this.
I want you fucks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, swinging, all that shit, dog. We sweating, getting wet, all that.
All right, welcome to the 160th episode of the Drinking Partners Podcast. We need to get some horns in the building because this is our autogram episode. Yes, the only Cleveland Browns quarterback to lead us to prominence, albeit before Super Bowls were a thing. We got the championship, though. We start with straight shots and then pop bottles. Shout out to Autogram, man. Thank you. We were like the Steelers of the 60s, man. We were doing it. We were like the Patriots of the 60s. Autogram did it for us. He got his own episode. Number 60 will always be Autogram. 160, 260, 360, even though I probably got to do something special for that. He's got the longest introduction, man. I'm happy about this. Plus, finding an athlete that wore the number 60 that's cool is a very hard thing to do. These next 10 are going to be tough as fuck. So thank you for getting us kicked off on the right foot. Autogram. I am half of your host in tandem, Ed Bailey. I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people? We are the Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and Google Play under Drinking Partners. And you can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod, man. 160 episodes we've been asking y'all, and we will continue to ask you, man. Please hop on iTunes, rate and review. That's how we know what we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well, and that's how we continue to do well. So please hop on iTunes, rate and review.
Listen, you love us. You see us in public, and you tell us that you love us. Now, at the click of a button, please just tell the internet, tell the entire world that these dudes are cool, man.
Yeah.
And we're so cool that if you do it, if you don't do it, and in lieu of leaving a rate and review, as always, 160 episodes in, we will say this. We will continue to say it. I had some of this morning. We do accept shots of Henny, okay? So, shout out to Car Guy DJ at the Conways for starting the trend and being so supportive. And, you know, if you listen, look, you support us like that, we'll shout you out. We shout them out every episode. We're happy to see them every time.
Yeah,
but in lieu of rates and reviews, we definitely take shots at Henny. Now, if you do decide, hey, I'm going to leave a rate or review, we'll read your review here on the podcast, just like this one here, labeled Totally Real by Jerry Dorsey. That's a very
Totally real.
Totally Real kind of sounds like he dresses like Wayne's World. Jerry Dorsey makes me feel like he works at Edgar Steiner Associates.
He sounds like a grown Gen Xer. Like he was Wayne's World. Now like he's middle management.
He's a totally different man in the man cave.
He's Mattress World now.
He's the dude from what was the movie with Will Ferrell when he was in the fraternity?
Oh, Old School?
Old School, yeah. He's Will Ferrell from Old School.
Totally real.
And by the length of this review, you don't always have to leave one this length, but this seems very in-depth. These guys roll tape and just go, capitalize. You can watch the live stream on Facebook, and when the official version comes out a couple weeks later, they didn't cut anything. Even if they say something wrong or a joke doesn't work, they leave it in. It feels more honest and makes me appreciate the funny stuff that much more. There's no script, no editing, no do-over. Even though it's all improvised off the cuff, it's still a funny show. These guys should be on HBO. Thank you, Jerry Dorsey.
Wow.
He kind of ripped us down to build us back up.
Yeah,
He took us down.
That was a compliment sandwich. It was a compliment
sandwich
salad.
method?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some shit up front. I'm going to tell you how I really feel in the middle. I'm going to top it off with, okay, I like that. That is middle management than a motherfucker. He just went.
He said they put it on. That's the same shit. He'll cut nothing out there. He kind of said we were bums.
He just came from a manager's meeting and wrote that. He's like, let me try this out. Let me see if this shit works.
Low-key called us bums, but in a good way.
They bum you as shit, but I like the bumminess more. Like, he's like, they do it live, and then when they bring out the real thing, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They didn't change anything. Shout out to Jerry, man.
Jerry, man, Mattress World. Go get a mattress off of him, man. He working hard out here.
He got on an apron and a name tag. That's a company, man. An apron, a name tag, and a brown tie. Them ugly browns. Oh, Jerry got the ugly brown slacks, the hamburger helper slacks. Oh.
But he's the cool manager because he has drinking partners playing in the background.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I fucks with Jerry.
That's Jerry.
Everybody needs a little Jerry.
Yeah, in the break room, you come through.
Yeah, everybody needs a little bit of, hey, I'm totally real, but I'm out here to get paid too. I'm keep collecting these checks.
Totally real with a mortgage.
But hey, Jerry, if you want to see the real, the raw of us, man, come to one of our live shows. We have March 17th that just passed.
Yeah, March 17th is over. When is this coming? When is this? March? We're talking about, I think April, man. Shit, man. You gonna catch us down at Arcade Comedy Theater sometime that month.
keep going, and I'm gonna pick it up.
And then April at the end of the month. So the last Saturday of every month, Comfort Theater, come out. We got Tommy Yuzu is going to be headlining that show, and as always, it's going to be free beer, BYOB, and a food truck. So look out for details for that, and that's comforttheater.ticketleap.com.
That's April 29th.
There it is.
No, I'm sorry, April 28th.
Almost.
And then we're at Arcade Comedy Theater April 21st.
Nice.
So just look out on the internet. You know our social media presence. Just look out for details. But as always, comedy BYOB. So we bring the funny, bring the booze. You can bring your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mad cheap night, man. For like $30, you and your girl can go out and have the time of your motherfucking life. I mean, drink some good craft beer, bring your own. I mean, maybe she don't like beer. Maybe she like the wines and whatnot, you know?
And new to the Night of Epic Comedy, we're going to have Jerry standing in the back rating all of the comedians, just giving feedback on everybody's set. Let you know what was good, what was bad, and the fact that the last time you saw you didn't change anything.
This guy's real. He does the same set every time I see him.
Jerry need to get his own Yelp app.
True.
We're giving out money jewels. But listen, we our guest today,
we're
going to get into this because she can't change anything because her shit is live. You know what I mean? So Jerry will appreciate that, the rawness, the realness, the authenticity. We got Virginia Alvino Young in the building. Say what up to the people.
What up, people?
Is
that right?
Yeah, that's there's no wrong way.
I'm usually on the other side. This is very challenging. Other side of the mic.
It's challenging. This has been a challenging day because it's 3:00 and I'm already 2 hands in. It's been a hell of a challenge.
Yeah, it was a long weekend, man. She came. She's like, "You guys drinking on Sunday?" I was like, "We actually drink on this podcast."
We drink every.
Yeah, it's a thing that we do. But the thing that you do, NPR, which is super dope. You say you say facts in a very calming yet commanding tone, which is pretty awesome. I enjoy listening to that. Like, I feel like I'm smarter when I turn on a little NPR. I turn off a little bit of the trap music and maybe learn a little bit about the world. So thank you all for doing that down there. Tell us about yourself, what you do down at NPR and, what you're doing here.
Yeah, I try not to be too calming. I try not to be, and in today's news, we have the latest. I try to bring, we have it's a real youthful group. It's a real youthful newsroom. And, we're really growing a lot and we've got a really great beat structure. So each reporter is really specializing in an area of focus. So, we've got really in-depth development reporting, really in-depth education reporting. And I focus on race, identity, and equity. So who we are as Pittsburgh, how Pittsburgh makes us feel about who we are, a lot of social justice issues and a lot of things that are really affecting people in their, in their real everyday lives.
So with your show now, was there a platform similar to that on NPR for Pittsburgh prior to you coming in NPR Pittsburgh, or how did that work?
I can't, I'd been reporting for a while and it had always been my area of focus. And then it was something that drew me to this station, even though it wasn't as developed as it is now a couple years later, was that they were looking at issues of equity. They were looking at issues of diversity. And so I think with this new system, it's really been able to grow. And in this city of all city, it's reporting that should be happening everywhere. But in Pittsburgh of all places, it's something that should be really defined and invested in, right?
Yeah, definitely. We need it here. So you said you were doing this prior to NPR. What avenues were you doing? Were you always radio? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was always radio. I started reporting in business school, which is, just take a couple turns along the road, right? So I was doing like data analysis work, but it was always about like representation in politics and diversity and identity issues. And then I kind of just bounced around member stations, so the equivalent of WESA, but in other cities. And so I looked at issues. The last station I was at was in Texas, so I was looking at issues affecting border communities and the Hispanic community. And before that was in Indiana, looking at the achievement gap for African American males and their peers across the board. So
in Indiana.
So
you just been in all types of different markets. You've been down there with the lean. I don't even know what the hell they do in Indiana. The Michael Jackson's from there.
They do the Klan down in Indiana.
Well, oh yeah, that's right. 'Cause my sister went to boarding school in Indiana. I think Ferdinand is like the home of the Klan. Like
yeah, Indiana is Klan heavy.
Damn. Man, it was a really diverse city. It was crazy. There was a really large refugee and immigrant population. There was a larger Hispanic population there than there is here.
There's a larger Hispanic population everywhere.
You don't get much of them in Pittsburgh. Nah.
Yeah, and before that I was in Portland, Oregon. So
ooh,
yeah.
all the cool ass cities.
We need to get a frequency. We need to get a frequency.
I know.
We need to get around.
Fuck this internet shit.
Frequency.
Need a signal boost. Like the fuck. Get to the cool cities. So what brought you to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for a change, looking to be in the area. Pittsburgh, I'd always been drawn to Pittsburgh. I'd never been here. I was like, oh, shit, I like.
Where are you from?
I'm from Las Vegas.
You're from
Las
Vegas?
Yeah,
okay.
Born and raised.
Man,
I never met someone just from Vegas.
Because they're all still there.
Nobody knows like what the housing market is like.
Yeah, I've never really met anybody from Vegas.
Neighborhoods are like. Do they have neighborhood pools? Are there basketball courts?
Like,
what happens outside of the strip, like off the strip?
Oh, like a bunch of people live there. Everyone, it's like it works. There's like schools and like malls and like stuff you're supposed to have in a city, but something's kind of missing, because it's in a valley. It's like this deserted little desert. Nobody should actually be living there because resources don't really accommodate living in the valley in the desert.
Do they have grass? Do you have like a yard?
Yeah, but you shouldn't. It should. It shouldn't. But there's like. Little housing developments, little like man-made lakes and stuff around it. I don't know, like any other city.
I mean, it's not like any other city because it's Vegas. Like this
is my high school was on the strip, like right at the end there. So you kind of just walk over.
I mean, it's like, what's that like?
How is that legal?
I don't know.
Like, what's it like growing up like in a city where like, I mean, there's like rampant like gambling and like people just come there to like wow the fuck out. Like you go to school,
and
like
your high school's down the street.
Yeah, like how do you maintain sanity when you're playing? Like that's because that's wild. I mean, I imagine like growing up in the hood or whatever. Like, I mean, like that was a wild kind of a place, a little different from like a suburb or whatever. I mean, but like people didn't come to Pittsburgh to like it was a hard, it was a blue town, city or whatever, and people just kind of lived normal lives and loved fucking sports. It was just like fucking sports, yeah. I mean, so you couldn't get away from like the sports aspect of it. But I mean, like for Vegas, it wasn't really sports. It was gambling and sex and drugs. So it's like fear and loathing. Like, how do you grow up in that and not?
Like it infiltrates the population that's like the semi-permanent population there. You know what I mean? Like people are like filtering in and out of the strip or whatever and coming and like going crazy and then like leaving really sad usually. I mean, it can be a great community. There's a lot of families that have been there for a long time. But for the most part, it's sad. It's a lot of like, there's casino. The casinos aren't just in the strip, right? Like every single neighborhood has a casino. So we had our neighborhood casino. So you couldn't go out to, you couldn't go out to the,
normal,
right? I kind of got that once I left.
But like, our neighborhood casino was dudes shooting dice on the corner. That was the neighborhood casino.
We had that machine. I mean, that had the little.
Those aren't legal,
but they weren't legal.
Where it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Every grocery store, every 7-Eleven's got slot machines and stuff, but it's like if you want to go to the movies, if you want to go to the bowling alley, they're all in your casino, so you gotta go to the casino. So you always go to the casino with your family and stuff. So a lot of families that have been impacted by like addiction and like losing a lot of money. There's a lot of.
So being in Pittsburgh, that's like so totally different, because I was in Wine and Spirits last night and they put like a new lottery machine in there and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like you could buy your Powerball tickets there. I thought that was out of place because that hadn't been there before. I was like, what, are you gambling in the Wine and Spirits now? What the hell?
Well, the big thing in Indiana was like those little pull tab thing, man. You sit at the bar for hours and hours and hours to see people pulling those tabs. So it's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. But
so how did growing up in Las Vegas kind of lead you into your line of work now?
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of steps in between. Like I definitely I was going to school. I mean, I went to school for philosophy in Oregon. So I was going to be a lawyer, And then I started business school. I was like, oh man, I'll do good in my free time and make a bunch of money first. And then everyone was like, man, you hate this and you're bad at it. So why don't you? So like,
at least you had a couple real ones in your corner. Got to have a couple real ones.
Yeah.
No, like, all you talk about is NPR. So why don't you look into that? Because I had like just discovered it. I wasn't one of those like listening to NPR in the back of the station wagon kids being all like woke with my parents, you know?
Yeah.
Oh no. So I was like, oh man, NPR, like people got stories. I'm like getting around the world in 1 hour of listening to Morning Edition. This is great. And so I kind of just like weaseled my way in that way and then finished school, but nobody really like cares anymore that I did.
Well, you're reporting, so I mean, nobody, I mean, I guess
the skills translate. Like it made me a better writer, and I'm a better writer now. But
from business,
yeah, because you have to write really succinctly and in ways that is that's digestible. You know, because everyone that I studied philosophy, so you had to write like a 1-page paper and like synthesize everything. Now all of a sudden you have to write an executive summary. Everybody's writing like 20-page flowery, prosy summaries, and I'm like, I have 10 seconds to deliver this message.
Yeah,
straight to it.
Yeah, so that's like, I mean, like Twitter. You know what I mean? You gotta,
she 140
like,
Twitter. She ain't up on this 280 characters.
280. Yeah, in the 140.
I don't stretch it. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, just I dabbled in like writing or whatever, and like I was always just long-winded or whatever. And like since I've been on Twitter or whatever, I found that like I know how to like cut the fat out and just say something and like get so much in and like. Now a whole paragraph is like, what the fuck am I gonna do with a whole fucking
That's
paragraph?
radio, man. And like you write a story for newscast and the average, you can't go past 40 seconds. 40 seconds. You could spend all day on a story, make a million phone calls. You have 40 seconds. So
wow.
That's all you get. And it's like, what else do you even have to say
You're
beyond
so
that?
much more professional than us.
True.
So much that goes into what you do, and we just come and literally just start. What the guy say? We turn the cameras on and go.
Yeah, that's
It's what happens here.
yeah.
Oh, I did zero preparation for this, so if it makes you feel better.
It does.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it definitely makes us feel a lot better. Although we don't really ask for prep here. I mean, we try to get to know our guests, get to know what they're doing. You know, let people in the city know that this is happening. You know what I mean? Like a show like this, people need to listen to. There's a lot. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't take you long to find things to report on here in Pittsburgh.
There's more than enough. My backlog of stories and just people. Sometimes it's just like, man, I met this person. How do I get them into a story? Because it's just so important. Sometimes, you just have to find an excuse to just be like, no, this is just going to be a story about this person's life because we should know what their experiences are. But I got a big backlog of dream things to kind of get to.
So how do you prioritize those sort of things? Because there's shit that's going on constantly, but there's stuff that you don't want to leave out. It may not be as national or as major, so to speak, but you don't want to just leave it out because it does impact people. So how do you prioritize?
Balancing it is the worst because you've got like to feed the beast. Like there's newscasts every day. Like you have to have news. Like what is the news of the day? People need to know what's going on. But sometimes the things that are happening don't necessarily translate into like a headline, like how people how the refugee population feels they've been received by Pittsburghers on the bus, isn't necessarily a headline. So how do we make sure that those stories get on there? Or, you know what I mean? Like, well, here another month went by without this one person being able to find affordable housing. That's not a headline either. So it's, sometimes there's news. Sometimes it's, this is what happened today. And I've got to like go down to the city and hear what the mayor has to say about it. And then you report on that because that's important too. But it's just finding the time. And luckily we've got a big enough team now where we can do kind of these more in-depth pieces. And a lot of our specialty, the things that we're better at are kind of like what happens after the headline happens. So how do people feel a year after this shooting impacted their community? Or, has policy really changed since this thing happened that, triggered a lot of response and there was a big march about it, but do people like actually still care about it a year later? So
yeah, I mean, like after the Twitter fame dies down and like the hashtags get forgotten or whatever, like what are people still doing?
That's exactly, when the hashtag is not trending anymore, where does the issue stand? That's exactly how I try to frame things.
So how is Trump like affected your work and like
this early in the episode?
Yeah.
I thought we were to the 40-minute mark.
like, you know what I mean? Because clearly it's like shaking every goddamn thing up. So
It's a whole thing, man. It's like a whole. Sometimes, I think it's interesting, and I don't think journalists get enough opportunity to talk enough about, because we're supposed to be these just like totally objective, non-human reporting machines when
unbiased.
we're citizens and we have our own issues, and it's about like understanding how those issues affect you to understand how they're informing your coverage and your voice, because I don't know, it's I guess it's a contentious issue still to admit that we even are people.
Yeah,
right?
I think the mark of any good journalism is like identifying your bias. I mean, and understanding that. You know what I mean? Like
I think so. But I mean, how do you balance sort of like self-care and preservation with needing to be up to date on everything that's happening when sometimes you're like anybody else and just need to like turn it off? And then there's like a TV in the newsroom all the time, and I'm just like, don't look at it sometimes. Like, I don't need to know what happened today. If the story that I'm doing right now is just, again, something just hyper local and impacting people here, like we don't necessarily need to be, firing on all cylinders all of the time on every issue, because it's just not sustainable. But it's impacted our work in a big way, because like when you go out into communities, like the rhetoric has infiltrated them in a very real way. And I have people talking to me as I have a microphone in their hand, like, well, the way the media frames this. And I'm like, I know you know that I am the media. I don't take offense to it. I don't know if you mean like big M media or little M media, but like we're also just talking as like two people. So it's like a very real shift that I think I've seen in the last year, is just people having the language to talk about how their view and their trust has been compromised in a real way. So
excuse me, with the advent of like social media and things like that, you being on, traditional radio,
right?
How difficult is it to report as opposed to allow your opinion to infiltrate, or is that even something that you have to concern
I have a very clear line. Like, I think my first mentor just like scared the hell out of me enough that I would never even cross that. Like, I will not click like on anything that is not a baby or a cat picture. I don't do the little disclaimer, retweet does not equal endorsement. I just don't retweet things. Like, there's no room for interpretation. I think there's a lot of journalists who would very much disagree with that are saying, this isn't a political issue. It's a what side of history do you want to be on issue. It's a very clear like moral stand, as opposed to here's my biased opinion. So I think it's a little bit more old school that I err so far on the side of caution. But I mean, you don't have bumper stickers as a journalist. You don't have lawn signs. And wow, what an antiquated reference. I get you were asking about social media. I'm talking about bumper stickers, but I don't like
people. Well, look, you are NPR Pittsburgh. Motherfuckers still be having the bumper stickers.
Yeah. But as a sub 30, well, that's all right. But you know what I mean? Like I have to follow all of the groups. And so sometimes, I guess in your feed, it shows you like if you click interested in an event, or if you click that you're like following a group, like it shows your feed. And so I'll have all of my aunties being like, I like that she's following the like Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh, but I'm like, I'm trying to get news. Or someone will be like, ooh, I like that you're like interested in Pride Fest coming to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, that is for work purposes. And that says nothing about where I stand on any particular issue. I just need to stay informed. But it's funny how, the things that you're staying up to date with are really like publicized. But I figure if I have enough on both sides, it'll paint like a clear picture of,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do with like, with social media myself. Like, I follow like the Fox Newses and like the right wings, the Economist. I follow the like, I try my best to not follow the ultra left wing, like, distributions, just because like I get that, like it's echo chamber, like I feel
shouldn't
that.
Everybody right?
Like it riles me up, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like, so I try to like stay like center to like right, like with the news, because I'm gonna be inundated with like on the Facebooks and the Twitter and the feed with that left side and that bias or whatever. But like I gotta hear this other side, because sometimes they get it right. Like you have to be well rounded with an opinion that isn't of your own. Like, you have to seek dissension these days, as opposed to it's so easy to get caught up in an echo chamber. And like I look at the journalism and trying to stay unbiased or whatever. Like, I was thinking about the other day, like being a journalist and like taking a picture of somebody like dying or whatever, as opposed to like going out and helping or whatever. And it's like, right, that picture is worth more like shown to the world than that one individual effort may have been. You may die in that effort or whatever. Like, and that's such a hard thing to do, is to stay on the outside, right, and not like interfere, or try your best to report, as opposed to, like get in there and like you said, like, change opinions and this, that, and the other, just like say, hey, this is the thing that's happening,
And no one like tells you where the line is. I don't know if I ever cross it, but I work so intimately with people who let me into their lives when they're in really vulnerable situations. And I'm like, hey, while you're in the most compromised, sensitive state of your life, I'm going to come in and ask you really challenging questions. And they do so gracefully. And how are you supposed to feel about that as a human being? I mean, do you care about this person? Do you care about the outcome? Do you are, obviously we go in without any, objectives. I'm not trying to achieve a certain thing or a policy change or, whatever, but it's about understanding. I know that there are plenty of people in Pittsburgh who are never going to know a person in this situation. So for me, it's just important for them to know that this is who their neighbor is, that this is who is also voting. And when you talk about, making sure that it's not, even if you do have like a sort of us versus them, insider, outsider, I'm far this way, they're far that way. Even if it's just like knowing thy enemy, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just part of like being informed. So I think it's really interesting. Like, you have to have, yes, your middle objective NPR epitome type source to know like the truth or close to it, that's not being informed with an objective one way or the other, but also just to know like who else is here? Who else is here with us? How do they feel? Shouldn't we know? Yes, maybe they're going to persuade us, maybe they won't, but you should just like know either way, I think.
Yeah, because like you said, they're voting too. Like, we have to share the earth with them. Like, their version of reality affects us. Like, I mean, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter when it goes to voting, when it comes to legislation. Like, how you feel about it, how, like, I mean, like, you could, if they believe that 2 + 2 is 8, then that's the way they're going to live their lives. And that's what they're working with, and that's what they're going to vote on. And it's up to us to at least know that that's where they're at. You know what I mean?
It's so problematic because you don't want to fall into these like false equivalencies of like 98% of scientists have this opinion about climate change, 2% that is louder think not. Do we give them equal space to share their opinions, or do you just understand that there are these two disparate opinions? So that's more of a programming issue. That's not really my my place to say, but it's just something to be cognizant of, right?
So do you all see like not shows, or do you hear things that are out in the media and then you decide, hey, maybe we look at the other side, maybe we approach the other side, try to find something on the other side, or do you just always like, all right, we're trying to go right down the middle from the gate?
And it's hard because, like, again, what is the middle? Does it mean like 50% on both sides? You know what I mean?
We don't do the middle. Yeah, we just talking as like that's what I'm saying. Like, your job is so much harder because we come in, we're just us.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine being in a position where, I mean, and sometimes, I know not to cross certain lines. Like, I'm not going to say certain words.
Yeah.
There's certain triggers that are universal.
Yeah, even comedians have rules.
Like, but like for the most part, like, I say random dumb shit on here. I say, I mean, I don't care. Like, it's just, I'm trying to give you a glimpse of me as a person, whereas you don't necessarily want to be you. You're not Virginia Young on this. Or this is not Virginia Young's opinion of what's happening. Yeah,
and it never is. But I think something that is critical that we can't ignore is like, by virtue of what stories you choose to tell, you're sort of voicing what you think is important. How much coverage is this thing going to get? Do we think that this issue even matters, and are we giving it airtime? Even if we're saying, here's a new affordable housing policy, here's kind of the winners or losers, well, we're kind of voting with our platform that this is something that people should care about, or we're acknowledging that it's something that, it's affecting people. But when you talk about the middle, I mean, in general, like, there's always another side, and we always strive to have like the other side, but it doesn't always fall along the lines that you think. Like, we had a Republican response to this policy. Now we're going to have a Democratic policy. Like, sometimes it's just something that has a winner or a loser. Or can you really report on a new tax affecting developers if you're not talking to the people who might be displaced because of it? And it might fall along those lines. So there's always two sides. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's straightforward, Yeah,
sometimes there's way more sides.
And sometimes there's way more, right?
In general, So I wonder, how difficult is Pittsburgh to navigate with that? Because Pittsburgh's in like a transition where you got all these old conservatives here. It's all this old money here, but then there's all these new ideas and new money coming in, and they're from two different worlds. You got the social media world, you got the print media world. Like, how do you even navigate that here?
It's like the most challenging thing in the world. But there's some advantages in that kind of this like two Pittsburghs ideas is really fallen into the zeitgeist. Like people know what you mean. People, even if they're of the more traditional mindset and, well, we should, maintain the values that we've always had. And, displacement is just going to naturally be a byproduct of change and growth and economic development. But people get it. I think we've talked about it enough. I think not enough that we're done, but enough to get us to the point that people understand that there is a population that is here and has been here and isn't moving along the same path as Pittsburgh as a whole when we talk about its development and its rebirth and all of these advantageous things that are happening. I think people, it gives us, when I talk about things not always having a headline, it kind of gives us an opportunity to tap into those stories. It kind of gives us an excuse to where it's always news. Whatever's happening in that space, we can always call news because it's something people can recognize as being an important, real thing that you don't have to start from zero and explain how we got here to talk about the two Pittsburghs.
So what are some of the more challenging stories that you've had to approach? Without giving opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
Day and I we'll cover the opinion portion. We'll cover the opinion portion. Day's over there looking at his chops.
We'll add the color commentary.
Yeah.
You just report the news.
Yeah. I mean,
They look at his chops right now. He used his college word. He used his NPR word, inundated. Like he's like, yo, he came ready.
What's the most challenging? I mean, there's things that are challenging personally just because it's like, man, I'm in this situation and just being on the outside of this situation. And then there are just things that are challenging to navigate and to understand fully. Going back to housing, it's just man, no wonder. There's so many policies that it's does this city policy cover something in the unincorporated county area, or does this federal funding actually have to go through and be distributed by the city? And then from where I'm sitting, it's just that's a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
And it's just hard. It's just the harder part of the job, to do it right.
You got to learn about a whole.
You have to become an expert in everything, and sometimes in a day, and then you still, you get complaints at the end of the day, or there's never enough context. So every story is hard in that when it's short, there's just never enough context that you can give. These workers are going on strike. Can you talk about the entire history of worker disparities, or the fact that they're in contract negotiations right now, or the fact, that this isn't a gentrified community, or the fact that these workers used to work in an industry that has since been displaced. There's never enough that you can say about anything. But I think the hardest things is again to just kind of go into people's lives with the mission that I have, which is to just tell the story, right. Without the doing of anything. And you go back and forth. Sometimes it's man, maybe I should be doing the thing, but knowing that being able to amplify their voices and their stories is what's going to make a million people want to do the thing. So
you gotta have somebody who can get you out there. And I think so. I guess the question I would ask is, how often do you run into an issue with individuals where you report something and they don't have the understanding? Here, I'm here to report. Now you are charged with taking that next step. People want it because in this society, people are so used to having that shit right at the front door.
Yeah, I mean, like a social work or whatever. Even in that, when you're trying to help somebody, it's people cross that professional line. It's I can help you in this regard, and it's very heavily legislated what I can do, for a family in this regard or whatever. And they're okay, but I need this or whatever. You know what I mean? So you coming in as a reporter, do people be so I'm saying, you out here reporting, can I get a couple dollars too? How,
can you put this GoFundMe on the radio?
Yeah.
Nah, I can't really do that.
Yeah, how do you keep it professional in that situation?
Honestly, I think people get, what I'm there for. People, I've been I'm also, again, a person who's volunteered before, and people tend, you go into a situation with a specific objective and they're going to ask for more, and you have to say no. But for the most part, people get that I'm, going to be in and out. I think the follow-up and the really humane treatment that I strive for is perceived well. I don't think people are crossing the line in that way, but when people are oh, can you plug my thing, or wanting to utilize the platform or amplify the platform for their own purposes, I don't know. It's pretty easy for me in my position to be like, okay, well, no, like that's not really a part of this story.
So polite.
You know, like,
you don't take the opportunity to kind of be a dick. Like, nah, bruh. What you think this is?
who do you think I am?
What
Yeah.
you think this is?
It's
young.
And it's pretty.
Well, I can't even say it's your boy.
It's your girl, young.
But sometimes it's like an awesome thing that they're like, oh man, but I'm also like developing this thing. Like, can you talk about this more? And sometimes if I think it's amazing enough, I'll just find a way, and I've done this before, to do another story about that thing. That's a whole separate thing. But as far as like the parameters of what I'm there to report on, it's pretty easy. You know, I think people get that it's just, and they also, you know, we're editorially independent. Like they can't really tell us what we, they're not exactly like reviewing things before they're published or something to see if it, I mean, we're an objective news outlet, so it's easy to keep the barriers up.
So what has your experience been like outside of professionalism, just, like being a transplant in Pittsburgh? I mean,
tell them how you really feel.
Yeah. It's a thing, like the city, like you said, it has been a very blue collar town, mostly, like very heavily European, dominated. And and
NPR had on heavily Eurocentric, inundated with European customs.
There's a lot of white people, and it's tough because we've had this conversation with so many different people. Coming in or whatever, like, and it's nice to get that, just to see, because like most people wouldn't like, just look at you and be like, oh yeah, like she's cool, she's down. Like they would just assume that you're, just fully with the pack of Europeans. So I figured like it would be a different experience for you.
Yeah. I mean, as a mixed race person who passes, it's its own lens that you have, but I come from a majority minority city. Again, our last stop, my husband's from Indiana, like small, like cornfield, like Indiana. And, I took him down to Texas with me, and it was just such a culture shock for him to be in the minority. And he felt bad. He was like, does that make me really terrible? But I'm uncomfortable here and I don't understand what's happening. And it just feels so different. I'm like, no, dear. Like this is just a new experience for you.
This is what minorities feel like.
Yeah, just all the time. Yeah, it was a learning opportunity that we took it as, right?
Yeah.
And so coming here, it's been challenging because it's not just partially the lack of diversity, but it's just an incredibly segregated community. I mean, it's a really like we live on the north side in this really beautiful neighborhood, and it's literally like a you cross the tracks situation. You're in a very different community, and it's just the starkness of that. I mean, Vegas was really like that in a lot of ways too. It's ranked as one of the most segregated communities in the cities in the country in terms of just if you look at the way that groups are isolated. So it's weird and kind of hard for us to not always be surrounded by the advantages that come with a more integrated community and a more diverse community. I mean, it's like people always use like food as the example or whatever, but it's like, why isn't there like a little like street stand on ours? You know what I mean? It's that's just the most like visceral example, but there are so many things that come with being in a more integrated community that are missing here. But that being said, you go into established communities and they're just so vibrant and strong and, despite adversity, manage to maintain so much of what they've always had. And so it's something that we've found in Pittsburgh to be really unique is the sort of rootedness of so many of the communities, and that's what we enjoy. And so you just have to be intentional about experiencing and valuing them, even if you have to go across the river to kind of do it or go across the tracks to do it. What businesses are you patronizing? Who are you investing in just as an individual? So it's been a tremendous opportunity to do that.
I have no idea. It definitely sounded like motherfucking Wakanda was about to break into this bitch. The fight music was
SWAT team coming around this joint. What you saw was a very negric reaction to door banging, much like you would see on certain parts of the north side. Yeah. A lot of toilets would be flushed, right?
True.
Yeah, no, I think so. The north side, though, I guess it's broadcast as kind of this cultural beacon. I mean, they named the Mexican war streets that, even though there are no Mexicans there, so that's cool.
There are no Mexicans on the Mexican war streets.
Not at all.
No.
But yeah, I think that's a good place to be. I mean, I think as a transplant, you do, because you're not from an area here, so you're not rooted in any tradition here. It's good to get around and see the things that the city has to offer, because there's a lot of shit going. Like, I don't know, how long have you been in Pittsburgh?
2 years.
2 years. So
you've
been like in the best 2 years to be a minority in the city. Like,
goddamn, you came in with your feet running. Like, I thought you had been here for a minute. She's all over the city.
It's a good time to, because I've been here for like almost 15 years, so I've seen the transition for real. Like when you talk about housing, I saw what happened to East Liberty. Like, I saw Penn Plaza get torn down.
Man,
I've spoken to people who had to be displaced, who got moved to Wilkinsburg, Homewood, and you go from this comfy Penn Plaza jump to this little small little shit somewhere, or they got to go outside of the city altogether. You ain't been here for long to see like the shit.
And then we're still seeing it. And so we're afraid, because, it's like, this is kind of the biggest city we would ever want to be in. And, you come because it's affordable. You come because it's, you can navigate it, and we see it changing sort of already. And when you're thinking about your long-term placement, it's like looking forward, what's it going to look like in 10 years when our family, when we start our family, or when our family grows. So
speaking of family,
we didn't want to bring it up, but congratulations.
Congratulations, you're hella pregnant.
Oh, so pregnant right now.
I feel bad because like the couch is super comfy for everybody else, and like I feel like you're struggling right now. Like,
nothing is comfortable for me, so it's fine.
It's gonna be hard for you to get up. Can we get a photo of us helping her up?
Yeah, I know.
Like if LeBron went to the hole and got fouled, and his two teammates can run.
It takes this 5-point turn where it's like, first I stretch out and then I lean in. So.
Yeah. So what's it like being pregnant?
Oh man, it's terrible.
Yeah. What's crazy?
I'm like the most complaining pregnant lady ever.
I hear look, man, you don't have to tell me. I stub a toe and I fucking and I'm like, I'm a baby. I mean, when it comes to pain and discomfort,
weak. I cannot even tell you.
I'm a very weak individual. And I saw my BM. She delivered my baby with no meds. Like, she had her heartbeat was going, her heart rate was slowing down or something shit like that with the epidural. So they couldn't give it to her, and they kept saying
because they told her is the coolest shit on earth. You realize the way they do that shit now, where it's on demand with the button.
The button or whatever.
How come I don't get an epidural as the father? Like, I'm going through some shit too. Like, I need to be calm over here on the couch while I watch all this shit happen.
I got so much to say to you.
They pulled us aside and was like, her heart rate or whatever, but we don't want to scare her, so we just going, we ain't even going. So they never told her. They were like, okay, the doctor's going to be coming to give you that. And they just kept it. So she, by the time, and this was a good 3 or 4 hours that she had no meds, and they kept just telling her it's okay, the doctor's coming. She's like, where the fuck is the doctor at? But they didn't want to panic her or freak her out. And then she had the baby with no fucking drugs or whatever. And and it was a fireworks display and shit when it came. It was wild as fuck. And I was like, and I was like, there's no fucking so
I'm terrified if I'm gonna opt in to just stick that needle in my spine. In what other circumstance are you gonna prefer it?
No,
I try not to be too complaining, but it's also wonderful and it's amazing and I can't wrap my existentially I can't really wrap my head around it. It just makes nothing. I'll be eating a sandwich and I'm like, you're gonna turn into muscle tissue for someone, you know what I mean? It's just it comes out of nowhere. How does he exist now, whereas he just did not at all before?
Yeah, because
based solely on just what my body has produced.
Because most of your body usually turns it into fat and poo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's turning into a baby.
And it was so early on too that my little app was his his heart chambers are fully done. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's got fingernails and heart chambers and his lungs are working. What are you talking about? He's dreaming right now. I'm like, oh no.
Dreaming?
Oh,
Baby's
no.
dream? What the baby's dream about?
Oh, yes. I do not know. Oh, I read
Have you ever seen Look Who's Talking?
I did. But they
smart motherfuckers in there, man.
Their dreams got to be just
based on
walls.
what?
They got to be uterus, like, isn't it? Like, they're just dreaming about
usually it's like an aggregate of what you've seen and what you've imagined, but he hasn't seen anything.
He's seen your uterus, so he's like swimming. And he's like, "Oh, I remember the left side.
Bro,
left
do
side
you
was
realize
good today."
how comfortable? That's the most comfortable place on earth. Is
I know.
A uterus.
I feel really bad that he's going to be
thing
born and everything's
in there. Like, there's no danger in there.
Nah.
There's nobody you got to deal with, and
He
you
doesn't
don't
even know
Well,
what
unless
danger
your
is.
mom's. I mean, you got to deal with your moms.
You got to have the right mother.
Yeah,
but
right, moms.
You only know solitude, so you don't have a problem being alone. It's generally peace and quiet.
Temperature is regulated. Everything is wonderful.
Nobody's asking you to borrow a dollar. You don't have to go nowhere for
Why
food.
haven't we developed like a womb bed? Like, you know what I mean? Where you just,
Who the fuck
just
gonna go to
snuggling.
work? Who gonna go to work after that?
You damn straight.
I'ma get
Ain't
out of
nobody
this-
getting out of the womb
Getting
bed.
out of my uterus to go make.
Well, it's a very
cold
Freudian
calls.
idea. It's a constant search to return to the womb. That's basically like our existential striving. Is just
They tried to do it
pursuing
with
that
water
comfort and
beds.
safety.
Yeah.
They tried to do it with water beds.
Did you hear this philosophy coming out? The existential, the
Maybe I wrote my thesis on it. Maybe I didn't.
yeah.
You wrote. Well, all right.
No big deal.
So how is your pregnancy, has it affected your work at all, or have you run into situations where you're reporting on something and people maybe look at you differently because you're a woman?
Yeah,
with
I know it's hard enough to kind of be a young woman and to go into these situations, and I dress sort of casually and just assume that the authority will be respected. I was kind of waiting for it, and honestly, like, I haven't gotten too much weirdness because if it's like in a professional situation, they just can't. Like, if you do, I will not be having it. Do you know what I mean? If I'm like, okay, Mr. Council person, like, you just have to talk to me, but it's been pretty well received. Not a lot of weirdness. It's weird, this pressure to be just like the ideal version of like pregnant or nursing or mom or whatever. Like, my work won't be compromised at all. I'm gonna have just as much but it's like I was sick forever, and then, or like, sometimes it's just like, oh man, like, this doesn't, like, I don't know, I just need to like lie down, or like sometimes I just can't get. I was like, oh, if I leave my heating pad right now, like, I take it to work every day, I'm like, if I got up right now to go do something, I'd be so unhappy. So it's like, it's compromised it a little. I mean, honestly, I wonder if my bosses are going to listen. Whatever. I mean, I think that they get that it's like a give and take.
Like, you get a pass on a lot of things.
On the one hand, I want like every accommodation in the world and to just be recognized for the miraculous thing that I'm doing right now, and like have also a parade just every day because of our inherent strength and ability.
Appreciate you coming here while pregnant.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely
I had to, like,
had I
get up.
known when we booked this like months ago that
We would've
I would
delayed
have
it
been
a
like,
couple
hey,
weeks.
we could have just, I ain't
No,
even
anything,
wanna-
I got to do it now or never.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well yeah, thereafter, yeah. But it's crazy because you're in a good pregnancy space right now. Like, it is understood that this is a pregnant woman.
Mm-hmm.
When someone's like the new show, that's a weird thing walking into a room. If you don't know that they're pregnant, you're like, all right, is this a pregnant woman or like?
So that's why I walk in very clearly, like, assume the position of like a very pregnant lady.
You always got that left
Yeah.
on the top.
Yeah.
That's right on the top, just to let them know. Rest that hand on the top. Yeah, no, because look,
To make people more comfortable and less, less
just don't
ambiguity.
know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak up for, like, I don't. If you kind of look pregnant, but you could also just eat a lot of permanis. Like, I don't know. Like,
That's
what do
what
I
I'm
say? How do I approach this?
It was
Do I
really uncomfortable
congratulate
too.
you?
I'm like, everyone's just gonna think that I'm like letting myself go, and so that's why I tried to like promote it a little more. But like being that in between was the worst, which is petty, but it was the worst because I was like, oh,
It's
I
real.
just
It's
don't
something that
look,
everyone's
I just don't look
experienced.
nice.
Well, it's something that everyone's experienced. Like, everyone's walked into a room and you kind of don't know, and you're like, and then if you're going to interview someone if you're going to interview a council person, or let's say, God forbid, you were doing something on like health and yoga, and someone's looking at you like, so
It just
you
made
don't
me
practice what
hyper
you
aware
preach.
of like how few working pregnant women I encounter just on like an average every day. Like, when you get like something new and all of a sudden it's like all you see, or like learn a new word and then you're listening for it all the time. And I'm just like, where the pregnant ladies at? And it's just like, I don't. And
Then when you get a car and you see it everywhere,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Beyonce song. All the pregnant ladies. All the like, just call them out.
And it's like I can count that, and it's amazing because like a lot of people could be pregnant at any time, but you see so few
7 billion people on the planet, so it happens a lot. But you're right, like you don't typically encounter it often. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about my day-to-day routine. I maybe run into a pregnant woman like once a couple months, maybe like really like. But it happens all the time. It happens
a lot. Yeah, like a lot of people, not many people are in situations where once you realize you're pregnant, you can go ahead and not work for a while. Like most pregnant women are working at least for a certain amount of time.
We don't see them, or like, I mean, like I honestly, like I might see them down like the street or whatever. I mean, like I don't know, like it's crazy.
But I kind of like I take a lot of pride in it. Like I really like putting on my blazer that doesn't like fit anymore, and like going to my professional setting and being like, yes, I'm a pregnant woman who's still working. Obviously, what was I supposed to do? Like sit on the couch for 9 months, Yeah,
like how does that how does that shopping work? Like with clothing and whatnot? Like, because I mean, and I thought about that, like just like with extreme weight change in general or whatever. Like I've been the same size for most of my life. You know what I mean?
Like 22 as a man, you pretty much set till you get old.
Yeah, but then you got some folks that like, I mean, even men or whatever that have those extreme like weight loss changes or like weight gain. I mean, like when do you buy a new pair of jeans?
Well, it was like a couple years ago or whatever, we're in the span of a year or two, I lost like 85 pounds or something, like something like significant.
Yeah.
And so I still had a lot of old stuff. I was like, oh man, I'm just going to wear this when I'm pregnant. I'm glad I didn't throw it out.
That's forethought.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Do you have any of the pregnancy jeans?
I am wearing them right now. I bought like this one pair of pants, and I'm good. This is not a pregnancy shirt. This is just like a regular shirt. This is
pregnancy jeans, in my experience, from what I've seen, you could keep them afterward. Like them Jones, you might got to fold the flap inside, but there be some fly pregnancy jeans.
What, nigga? Ed, knowing some things about that. I didn't even know you could keep pregnancy jeans.
What do you think happens with them after you have the baby? You think they dissolve?
I think they just donate. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what's crazy. Because like, if you have a baby and you buy new clothes for this baby, it's really like only you're gonna have them for like a couple of months, and then like, what the fuck you do unless you're gonna have another baby? Then you give them away or some shit.
Well, when you're middle class like myself, you always think about squeezing every dollar out of that purchase.
Yeah, so just cut them up. And
she kept the jeans. There was a jean or two that she wore for a little minute afterwards.
Cut the top off, make a headband out of it or something.
Well, I hope she cut the top off now because I don't want to have any more kids. But after the first one, they don't just cut the top off. Top ain't covered off yet.
It was a little maybe like you leave that knife on the side of the sink. I might make another sandwich.
Hey fellas, listen, go through your ladies' clothes in the closet. If you find those maternity jeans, she's not done.
Sometimes they're just more comfortable. I mean, I've
heard that.
I resisted for a long time. My husband was real like not having it. He was like, we're going to the mall today to get you the jeans. I'm like, I don't need the jeans. I don't need the jeans yet. And they happen, and it's so much better now, man. Now I can stand like no resistance on my body at all. Like if anything is even like a point of pressure, not.
Yeah, I like watching y'all put them on and bring that whole flap over the tummy. That's just cool to me. I like it. I actually like.
I'm glad you enjoy it. It's mildly traumatic, but I'm really glad that you like it.
I like the journey.
Just as like a voyeuristic thing,
As a man, just watching a pregnant woman navigate life, it's kind of cool to see.
It's mildly traumatic.
Like while we're trying to like get up and while we're trying to just like breathe because our lungs are compressed, you're like, oh man, that's so sweet.
I'm glad my pain amuses you. It has some benefits.
You can look at it that way, but it's something that I can't experience, so I have to observe it. I have to take it in through observation. I can't experience it. And I just, I have an appreciation for what y'all go through, but I'm not going to act like
appreciation's a little light. I think you should maybe.
Well, I'm gonna give Ed, because Ed nearly died last year, so I would akin that about as close to like pregnancy you get. Like this motherfucker was sedated with a tube in his throat for like a month. So shit like
people
that.
People watch me and they tell me stories about it. I have nothing that I can say. I don't even remember that.
And then like having to the same thing, like having to adjust your behavior like after something like that. I mean, like, things that you used to do, just like hop out of bed and go to the bathroom is like.
I keep like when you roll, like your abs are all strained and stuff. And you got to sleep on your side now, and I never slept on my side before, so I'll go to roll over and just get this like strain. I'm like, I am hurting myself in my sleep. I think I just pulled a muscle in my sleep, and I wake up all hurt. I'm like, oh man. See what I mean? Everything's just
like sleeping is an exercise.
Yeah, it's like a workout.
Yeah, that shit crazy. And there's women in 2018 that still want to have like 6-7 kids, and I don't understand what the fuck
the natural
narcotic they're
shit.
on to where you want to have that. First of all, you want to have that many mouths to feed. Second of all, you want to go through that many pregnancies. Like,
I literally don't know how anybody does it ever.
Are you one and done? Or are you waiting to make that decision?
Like
the plan was 2, but I'm like, man, if I get through this one.
Yeah, the plan. Yeah, well, it's nice that you plan, man. I mean, not everybody plans. I mean, that's I'm not where I come from. There's not a lot of Planned Parenthoods. Yeah, I mean, me on that one.
As a man, I had a conversation where I found out I was going to be a daddy. A lot of our listeners can understand.
Yeah.
There was no plan.
Yeah.
It was just one day I was going to go watch the game on Sunday, and then next it was like, no, you need to start preparing. Yeah. There's a child coming.
Yeah, I was on break and I got a phone call, and basically the phone call was like, you need to make more money.
I cannot because we planned it to the day, and I was like, you can't. Everyone's like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, we're gonna try. And then it happened, and it was like, and I immediately fell to the ground. I was like, oh no! Like, what did we do? Oh man, why do we even like kids? Like, what do we do?
Like kids? The answer is no. No one likes kids.
When we're like the biggest like kids crazed, baby crazed people.
No one likes kids.
And I was like,
nobody
oh no,
likes kids. The kids' lives are so great, and they're always unhappy at some point. And you're just like, what do you have to be unhappy about? Like, your life is awesome. You didn't pay for those clothes, the food you ate, the TV you're watching, the ride you got to your friend's house.
Hard.
None of this shit.
Life is so hard. Like, it's so hard for me to find compassion.
You don't even have to be smart at this point. You're 2 years old. We don't even have any standard of intelligence for you. Why are you upset?
Everything's free. Like, everything's free. Like, it's hard. You're crying to me right now, and I'm like, I'm digging deep right now. I'm digging deep for some sympathy.
Now it's just made me apologize to my parents like every day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What was I thinking as a child?
That's how, like, I wrecked my mom, man. Like I said, she was 5'2", 100 pounds, man. Like, 100 pounds, 5'2".
Your mom is 5'2".
My mom is 5'2", 100 pounds, and she had a 9.10-ounce baby. I wrecked her. I apologize. 9 pounds, 9 pounds, 10 ounces, and a very small woman. Yeah. So if you listen to more, I apologize. I shouldn't have did that to you.
And then for everything that came after.
And everything else afterwards. Yeah. I mean, like, but I feel like the afterwards was like, it was all downhill from there. I mean, like, once you passed that, like, it was like, all right, this is going to be tough.
Do you now want to do like any pregnancy reporting?
Yeah, and it's
there a pregnancy issue in Pittsburgh that we need to address.
There are so many like paid leave and paid family leave, and like of course,
hell yeah,
of course you start to get very attuned naturally to the things that are going on in your life. So there's a lot of stuff now. I'm like, I'd have a million questions about how other women do work, and like, is everyone in compliance with FMLA and other accommodations like for nursing and things like that. So now I'm all like on this investigative, like I'm gonna see what everyone else is up to.
Can I ask you one opinion?
Yeah.
All right. So FMLA, right? Can we do something to extend that for daddies more? Dads that want to be involved. I don't like that.
Like paternity leave and stuff. I mean, I think culturally, right? The pendulum is kind of going that way. Like, you're seeing a lot of, and change usually, I mean, plenty of policies change, starting from the private sector, like doing things, ahead of what they're required to do. And so I feel like I see a lot of private sector companies offering paid paternity leave. I mean, FMLA is not paid, but
the wrong job.
Yeah, no, I mean, but the fact that you even have a job that has leave, I mean, that, like, I think first we need to just get like universal leave. I mean, you have some countries that have like women that just, if you become pregnant, then you just get leave. It's just a thing.
About leave part-time, is up to interpretation too, because leave could mean, okay, for this 12-week period, we can't fire you.
That's not right. That's the extent of protection. For this 12-week period, you can be paid. Because now I think I could, like, for example, if I had a baby, I could be off work. But I ain't getting paid for this shit. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, now I got to be like, so can I take off work? Because I ain't getting paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody should be paid. You know what I mean? Let me get 3 weeks with the baby as a dad. Let me get just the first 3. Because, women, y'all take that first 3. Y'all get that advantage right there. You know what I mean? Y'all more in tune. Y'all already might be breastfeeding. Like, daddy got to find his niche. And it's hard to find that niche with that 3-week-old baby because all that baby want to do is suck the teat.
Yeah.
But it's not even about the luxury of family dynamics, right? Like the amount of work that directly affects health outcomes is largely based on the parents' investment of time.
There you go.
So
articulate my shit better, because what I'm trying to do is be the equal footing on the parenting with the child. You know what I mean? I want the kid to love me. You articulate that
it's
better.
that too, but I mean, I'm saying if you're making a case for policy change, there's more to be said than just for the feel goodness of it. I mean, study after study, right, shows that what they need and the consistency of what they need is so directly affects health outcomes for baby and mom. And so I am very lucky to be in a position to get literally any time. And it is, opinion aside, it's rare. It's rare to get any time, much less any paid time. But to understand the investment in time and resources that it takes to just create a healthy outcome it's going to be the hardest I've ever worked in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, I mean, most companies don't really give a fuck about their employees. I mean, like, most companies don't give a fuck about employees. Most companies don't really, like, want to have well-educated, like, strong, like, employees. They just want to plug and play. You see a lot of that, like, going on. So it's like, yeah, we do understand that, like, this is the best thing for children in America and that whole thing or whatever. But, like, if you're working for a company that doesn't really give a fuck about you, they're definitely not going to give a fuck about your kids or how they come out. So it's like, it is tough. Like I said, I mean, I think dads definitely should have some sort of paid leave or whatever, like, but I mean, we just got to work to get fucking paid leave in general. Like, that should just be something, even if it is something like 3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, like, not the full 6 or 3 months or whatever, like, but just something that, like, because I know coming out, like, I mean, I only got one kid. I only dealt with it one time, but like that, even that first like month is fucking ridiculous. Like, coming out and having to figure out your schedule and all that, and I mean, like, the mom and like her. Imagine like coming out of the hospital and then having to go to fucking work, or not, like, I mean, not really even be able to afford to live.
That shit is whack. Like, you have a baby, like the first day home, but you got to go to bed and go to work that next day because, they in a couple nights. And if you had that baby on Monday and that baby ain't coming home till Wednesday, Thursday, you done took all them days off. And it's like, oh,
now
shit.
your phone bill fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, you behind checks.
You done bought all this takeout because, wifey ain't there to cook no more. And you ain't at the crib to cook for yourself. Like, you in the hospital, so now you hitting up the cafeteria, which closes early.
Yeah.
It gets,
the one thing I would
You really
the one thing I would suggest the one thing I would suggest is try to have a baby like around December or whatever. That's what we did. Like, we didn't try to; it just happened. But like, that motherfucking income check is like, February right on your ass, so you get that little bit of a little bit of a boost.
Oh,
so
y'all use it like home purchase. Like, all right, let me buy this house November, December. I get that consideration on that next tax thing, which I don't even know if that's still happening with we ain't gonna get into that because we start going
claim it. Getting into hustles.
I don't even, because now I gotta go do some more research. So okay, so here's we're gonna summarize this whole thing. Like, people will bring you information, you take that step and take it a step further to find, the further people will present things to you. Now you take that next step to get the information that, appeases you, to get you to that next step of understanding. Is that fair?
I mean, usually it's not a case of someone giving you anything, and it's having to just,
like, you give them information.
enterprise.
Like, when you do these stories,
yeah,
you present something to someone that they may not be aware of, but you can only take it so far. You have a limit in time. You have a limit in what you can express, on the radio. So now it's up to them to go ahead and take it that next step and find out, learn some shit.
I hope so. I hope that it sparks at least like getting an issue, getting a voice, getting something into people's heads to say like, okay, and people should be impacted. I mean, everybody should take, whether it's NPR or not. I mean, you take everything as being just what it is, which should be a launching point for you to do. I mean, we fact check everything, right? And we use primary sources, right? But that doesn't mean that should be the end of your understanding of anything.
So it's about, everybody else does that shit either.
I know, but you want to advocate. That doesn't mean you need to like go like dig through the report yourself. You can take some facts for facts, but it should prompt some further, at least critical thinking and evaluation. I think, and I think that's something that NPR listeners tend to. That's just the type of person they're going to be anyway. Right. So it's an amazing opportunity and something that I can't believe that we do, just that any human being can be tasked or trusted with, so we don't take the privilege lightly. That, I mean, sometimes what you're going to say about something is the only thing that person is going to hear about it. So every single thing that you put out better be the best quality and the highest standard that you can, because they're going to take that information and it's going to inform them. It's going to inform how they feel about other people. It's going to inform how they vote. And it's a tremendous opportunity.
That's real though.
Yeah. What is one of the things that people like? One of the most common reactions to hearing that you are a reporter for NPR.
It depends on the room, right?
Yeah.
Like some people are like, we have fans, which is hilarious to me. I think my parents think that I have like a fan club.
I assumed you had a fan club.
You're reaching a bunch of people. So.
Yeah, a lot NPR, of
it's crazy. A lot of people are either like fans or a tremendous amount of people that have never heard of it. Or what do you mean? You're a reporter? Oh, for TV or newspaper? Do you know what I mean? Like not knowing
never
that
heard of NPR.
There's a lot of people that have never heard of NPR or public radio. And so then that's a further sort of obligation, is like now you're the ambassador to their first point of contact, that even knowing that this media exists. So you are their entire understanding of this entire industry.
Damn, you important.
So
yeah,
you important, girl.
It's stressful. You know, you say one wrong thing and it's like you want to present the medium as being something that's trustworthy and objective, especially when people can have this sort of anti-media idea. But it's also a great opportunity, because now it's like the only thing they know about NPR is that they cared about my voice. So it's kind of a great first introduction as well. But yeah, there's a lot of people that never heard of public radio, and I get that.
I don't, but I mean, I'm weird. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hear of it till recently.
Okay.
Like little before we ended up doing, it was down on the south side when we did our thing for NPR.
At the station podcasting.
Like right before that, I heard of it. I mean, you just depends on what you're trying to do, how you're getting your information.
But it's this big thing. It's not just like your local station. It's hundreds of member stations across the country. It's the network. It's dozens of international bureaus. And it's like, your weekend programming also. Like we get all of our fun stuff, you know what I mean? Like you listen to the weekend game shows and stuff. And it's so much more than just like what your NPR team in Pittsburgh is doing.
Well, radio with the average person, I think, well, I can speak from my experience growing up. Like you find your station and your car don't change from that station. Like, back home, it was 107.9. That was if I was listening to the radio. If I didn't have a CD in that I was listening to, it was 107.9. I didn't really. It wasn't until like you get serious and shit like that, satellite, where you start seeing like where you can change the station and find different things, and then you can find a certain thing like NPR, but like.
Man, like I don't listen to radio anymore, but like I follow everything online. So
it's all online.
All the NPR reporters or whatever, I'll just like go on and
So yeah, I mean you'd have to.
And you can like podcast. You know what I mean? There's like NPR One, which is like a podcast. Like you're discovering all of your local news mixed in with international news. So we've inherently had to go from just being this terrestrial platform to what does it mean to have this online presence, to have this digital presence. So still some growing pains there, I think, but in general across the board, doing a fabulous job, and it's a matter of growth more than attrition. I mean, you see a lot of other more traditional outlets not growing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
the neutrality.
Yes.
So
it's a good place. Yeah. A good place to be.
In this vein, tell the people where they can find you, where they can hear your voice.
Yeah, we're 90.5 FM in Pittsburgh, and we have transmitters really across the region, so our listening area is really broad. But you can tune in, and we've got our flagship news drive time shows, and lots of all the incredible national shows as well during the day. WESA.FM is the website where all of the stories go. What is my Twitter handle? At Virginia Alvino. At Virginia Alvino. Is my Twitter for and our Twitter and online coverage tends to go beyond as well. You have to synthesize your story into something succinct, but for live tweeting at events and press conferences and things going around the community, all of us on Twitter are really great about, giving a lot of supplementary information too.
How do I get tickets to to Tiny Desk. I want to be like, I'm just trying to be in Tiny Desk for a minute, just chill and watch like T-Pain do some wild shit.
Oh, that was the best one.
Oh
For
my
real.
god,
my god.
So I still every once in a while I'll just put that on and just rock out. That's man.
Man, Noisy just did this investigative piece about how NPR's been deceiving us the whole time, and the Tiny Desk is not really that tiny. It's very average sized. It's just like this L-shaped desk.
Oh, it's just regular size desk.
It's not like particularly tiny. No,
that's deceiving as fuck.
It is very deceptive.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, not all the news could be straightforward.
Especially that includes T-Pain.
Have you not seen that?
No, I haven't seen.
Oh my god!
I have not watched anything
man.
Listen, man.
Since
Listen, man.
You'll
I could not care less about T-Pain, and I love this Tiny Desk.
Yeah, that you'll look at that T-Pain. He don't sound like nothing like this shit that you've been hearing.
He can sing.
Nothing that anybody can ever do for me that will change how I feel about T-Pain.
Until you watch his Tiny Desk.
Buy you a drink. And for a short span in my life, that was the party ender. That was the one that let me know how my night was going to be.
No, he contributed. I'm telling you, man. Here, listen to that.
Buy you a drink on. as they tells the people where they can find us. I just. T-Pain can't do anything. They just had this. He was a trending topic because of a tweet he put out about his wife about how they were at home doing XYZ. I didn't give a fuck. You know why? Because it wasn't buy you a drink.
It wasn't buy you a drink. Wait until you hear that motherfucking Tiny Desk.
I'm still snapping in 2018.
If you listen to this motherfucking episode, you'll take anything from that. Go check out Virginia Alvino and go check out that motherfucking Tiny Desk with T-Pain, man. That shit will change your motherfucking life, man. If you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspot. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and Google Play under Drinking Partners. And you can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnerSpot.
And we want to thank Virginia Young for coming in.
Thank you.
It's sharing her knowledge and her experience at NPR. Make sure you listen to that, man. Make sure you find the Tiny Desk, because I'm going to make sure I do so, because I want to see if that changes my opinion on T-Pain. But as always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family, and we out of here.
Oh, snap. Now rock.